What's up, guys? It is the last Sunday of the month, so you know what that means. We are on our ABCs of English colloquialisms. It's a series I'm doing and it is posted the last Sunday of every month. We've already done A, B, C, and D, and today we are going to do E. So today I'm going to tell you 5 English colloquialisms that start with the letter E. So if you want to go back and watch the rest, you can do so, but make sure you come back here and watch today's video because it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, E is kind of a weird letter. I'm not discriminating against letters, it's just E is weird. It is a vowel, so you think it would be popular, but it's not. So I had to really think and consider which colloquialisms I wanted to use today, but I think I gathered a good list. So the first one, every cloud has a silver lining. Again, that is every cloud has a silver lining. Now, this is an idiom, and this just means that there's a positive aspect to every negative situation. There's a positive aspect to every negative situation. Is this true? I don't know. I guess it's objective. It depends on you and the person you are. If you are a positive person, maybe you think, okay, yeah, every cloud has a silver lining. Even though bad things happen in life, even though, the worst thing you could possibly think of happened to you, there's like a domino effect and something good has to come of it. But if you're a negative person, you probably don't believe in this idiom because bad things sometimes can just be bad. And there's nothing good about it. It doesn't have that silver lining. This is a true story. Before I give my example sentence, a few years ago, one of my coworkers was supposed to go on a flight. On the way to the airport, the Uber driver that they were using got a flat tire. They got a flat tire and then they weren't able to make their flight. They missed their flight. Uber felt bad. They didn't know, do I contact Uber? Can I get reimbursed from Uber? But they tried to get a new flight. They missed their flight. That flight was actually deferred because there was something that happened, something wrong with the plane, and it had to land in another place and it had to stay there. And it wasn't like anything horrible happened, like these stories that you hear, oh my goodness, I was supposed to be on the flight on 9/11 and da. It wasn't that, but it just saved that person, my coworker, a lot of trouble because the flight, she was going to DC, the flight that she was originally supposed to take was deferred. I guess there was a medical emergency. It landed somewhere else. Nobody could get a flight out of there. She was able to just switch flights and then go straight to DC, and it didn't really affect her plans so much. So even though it was a negative thing that happened, a bad thing, she got a flat tire. It wasn't her fault. It was the Uber driver. She was I wasted money. I think in the end she was able to get her money back, or at least a little bit of it, because she had insurance or something on her flight. But I was kind of somebody was looking out for her, God or somebody was looking out for her because she was able to avoid many more complications after that. There was a silver lining. An example sentence for you all for this idiom is, even though she lost her job, she reminded herself that every cloud has a silver lining as it gave her the chance to pursue her passion. Even though she lost her job, she reminded herself that every cloud has a silver lining as it gave her the chance to pursue her passion. And that was an idiom. The next one is also an idiom. The next one is easy as pie. Easy as pie is an idiom that means something very simple to do, or something is very simple. Now, I will say that this is kind of an older idiom. A lot of the older generations use this. It's still used in the younger scene. I don't even know where I qualify anymore. Am I young? Am I old? I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think when you're in your 30s, you're somewhere in the middle. So I hear it still, but definitely it's more common amongst the older generations. Easy as pie. An example of this is, for me, English is easy as pie. And I'm not saying that to gloat or anything. I'm a native English speaker, so obviously I have an advantage. When it comes to grammar and things like that, when I was in school growing up, I always gravitated towards it because I felt like it was easier for me. However, math was not. I always struggled with math. Even the simplest math, I'm I don't know. It is not easy as pie for me, math, okay? But English, yeah, it's easy as pie. And I would tell my friends and stuff I tutored growing up, I'd be I don't know, English just comes very easy to me. It's easy as pie, but I understand how you feel because math is where I struggle. So when I'm in math class or whatever, when I have to do math, I freak out, I panic, I have anxiety, I start sweating, I don't know what I'm doing. But when it's English or anything English related, I'm more in my element. And yeah, it's easy as pie for me. So an example sentence of this is, the math problem was easy as pie. I solved it in just a few minutes. So obviously this person was not me, because it would not be easy as pie. Maybe my son, my oldest son, he's very good at math, and I'm like, how? I don't know. That must have came from his dad's side, because you didn't get it from me. But again, the example sentence is, the math problem was easy as pie. I solved it in just a few minutes. So far we have 2 idioms that both start with the letter E. We have every cloud has a silver lining and easy as pie. Moving on to number 3, which is actually an expression. All right, so not an idiom, an expression, and it's easier said than done. Easier said than done. So this expression is actually extremely common, especially in my household, because my mom growing up, she would always say this expression about every little thing, like, oh, it's easier said than done, but you can blah, 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 blah. And now I notice myself as a parent as well saying this expression a lot, especially to my kids. My kids will be like, hey, can we just like go here tomorrow? And it's like some random water park in the Middle East. And I'm like, no. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because we have to get a flight and a hotel, and then it's expensive. We need money. And they're like, but you have money. And I'm like, not that much money. And they're like, but we took a flight. Like, we just traveled abroad for 5 weeks. It's like, oh, we just went there. Why can't we go here? And I'm like, baby, it's easier said than done. It seems all nice when you're like, oh yeah, I just want to go here. And I'm like, no, it's easier said than done. So I have to try to explain them. Like, I understand my kids are kids, so they don't really have a concept of like money and anything financial and time and like taking off work, taking off school. They don't really have that kind of concept yet. They just think like, if you want to do something, why not do it? Which honestly, I agree, but you have to plan things out. All right. So some things are just easier said than actually being done. Easier said than done. So an example sentence of this is, quitting smoking is easier said than done. It takes a lot of willpower and support. Quitting smoking is easier said than done. It takes a lot of willpower and support. I actually have a few people in my family who smoked when they were younger. They quit at an older age, even my own father, and it was easier said than done, because sometimes you build that addiction. For me, it's not smoking, it is coffee. If I ever have to quit coffee, easier said than done. People are like, oh, just stop drinking coffee. Excuse me, you say that, just stop drinking coffee. Easier said than done. I don't know. I'm a coffee addict, caffeine addict. This is a little bonus story, but I just got back from Vietnam, and Vietnamese coffee has changed my life, all right? Because now that I'm back in America, I've been back at the time of this recording about 10 days. I have not been able to have American coffee. Like, I'm using the coffee that I bought in Vietnam, because every time I try to drink American coffee, it just tastes like coffee flavored water to me. And people are like, oh, just stop drinking coffee. It's not good for you anyways. First of all, coffee is good for you. All right. There's nothing saying that it's technically bad, technically. And second, easier said than done. Just stop drinking coffee. I can say that like, oh yeah, I'm just going to stop drinking coffee, but am I actually going to do it? No, easier said than done. Okay. So easier said than done. It's a very common expression. You will hear it literally everywhere. Everybody says it. Super common. The next one, number 4, is a slang term, and it's called elbow grease. Rather strange, I will admit. Elbow grease. Elbow grease. And you're probably like, Carly, what are you talking about? Okay. Elbow grease just means hard work or effort, especially physical labor. So hard work or effort, especially physical labor. So if you have to put in some elbow grease, it means you have to work hard. A lot of times this means, like I said, the definition, physical labor, manual labor. You actually are sweating, you're lifting something heavy, you're fixing something. It takes a lot of work and effort. But you can use this for something that's mentally laboring as well, but it's just not as common. So if you have like a project or a deadline and you're working hours and hours and hours to finish it, you can say, man, I really had to put in the elbow grease for this one. But it's not as common. A lot of times when you use this slang word elbow grease or slang term elbow grease, it's meaning physical labor, like you're building a house or you're fixing a car, something that you actually have to like manually do, and like you're sweating, it's hot, you're lifting heavy pieces, you're putting in the elbow grease. So for me, growing up, my dad would use this slang term a lot because he would be like,
Carley, give me that elbow grease.
If I'm like, it's not working, I'm trying to, helping my dad, and I'm trying to like tighten the bolts or something, or my dad's teaching me to change a tire on the car and I'm trying to like tighten it up, and I'm like, okay, I think it's tight, and he comes and he wiggles it a little bit, and he was like, Carley, that's not tight, and I'm like, it's as tight as I can get it, and he's like, no, put in that elbow grease, meaning like, make sure you can do it. So then I'm like, okay, I'm like, trying to tighten it as tight as I can or whatever. So yeah, my dad used this slang term a lot growing up. You know how dads are. They go back and they check your work and they're like,
what is this?
What is this here? And you're like, I'm just a baby. I did my best. And he's like, no, put in that elbow grease. Put in that work, that hard physical labor. So an example sentence of this is, this project will take some elbow grease, but I know we can finish it if we work together. This project will take some elbow grease, but I know we can finish it if we work together. Elbow grease. All right, so we already have 4 and we have 1 more left to go over today, and then we'll do a small recap at the end. The last one for today, you probably already know, it's very common. A lot of people say it, even though it's like such an old idiom. A lot of people know what this means, and it is elephant in the room. Elephant in the room. Again, like I said, it is an idiom, and it means an obvious problem or issue that people are reluctant to discuss. So an obvious problem or issue that people are reluctant to discuss. And again, reluctant just means they don't want to talk about it. It's awkward. They're like, they know that it's something that should be talked about, but they don't want to bring it up because it's going to be awkward. An elephant in the room. So an example of this is, I have a coworker who did not show up for work for a very long time. And she was still working like online from home, but she didn't go to office for a very long time. And she also kind of had a little bit of beef. You know what beef means? Like she had some problems with people in the office here and there. Nothing huge, but just little things that have been said. So finally, when she came back into office and everything, and we had a meeting, it was a little bit awkward because you could feel that there was an elephant in the room. Like we were talking about just the work that we had to do, things that we had to get done. We were trying to stay on topic, but overall there was like a stuffiness that you could feel in the room, like some tension, and that's what we call an elephant in the room.
First, we need to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Francine, happy birthday.
Because honestly, everybody was wondering, yo, where have you been? What's been going on? Also, like, why, like, what has changed? Like, why are you beefing with people now? Like, people had questions, but nobody was addressing those questions because we're reluctant, all right? We're reluctant to discuss it because it's going to be awkward, all right? So we just stayed quiet and moved on. And eventually, most of the time, elephants in the room just die out. You have an elephant in the room, and then if you don't talk about it, you don't discuss it, you don't bring it up straightforward, after time, a little bit of time goes on, just kind of dies out. So an example of this is, during the meeting, no one wanted to address the elephant in the room, the budget cuts that everyone was worried about. During the meeting, no one wanted to address the elephant in the room, which was the budget cuts that everyone was worried about. I know these videos are a little bit longer than usual, and I know I tend to go over them quickly, but just to recap, we have number 1, an idiom that is, every cloud has a silver lining. Number 2, another idiom, easy as pie. Number 3, an expression, easier said than done. Number 4, slang, elbow grease. And number 5, another idiom that is the elephant in the room. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you're enjoying this series, the ABCs of English colloquialisms. If you are, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you all in the next video.